Hi, I'm Adrian Bowles of Storm Insights. Recently had the opportunity to talk to Charles Gadalla. He's the Senior Director of Advanced Analytics at SAP, and we discussed predictive analytics, one of my favorite topics. Here's some of the highlights from that conversation.
Pain points in the market. For example, how would you use analytics to do some kind of analysis that would increase your sales or reduce costs on your? And sometimes it's a historical look backwards. So I'm looking at data that I've already collected. I'm building a report of some sort. I'm using that analysis to build a design studio dashboard of some sort, so I can monitor things in real time with things like event stream processing or real-time analytics. But then there's the element of looking forward. So I'm not looking from the rearview mirror at what happened previously to how I can apply things going forward. I'm looking for trends, correlations in the data, things like the unknown unknowns, if you will, and finding that nugget that I could apply going forward to increase the value of the business. And that's where the predictive analytics come in, so the advanced analytics component. When we define advanced analytics, we're looking at data mining, optimization, things like looking at solver equations, these kind of techniques which are advanced, but could be applied to business users. So the other pain point is there's just not enough of these data scientist personas out there to solve a lot of these equations, these problems. So let me give you 3 examples. There's more data these days. Big data story is pretty prevalent. We know that we're using more data today than we did last year, and we'll use more next year than we did today. The other piece is decision cycles are shrinking. Any business, banking, fraud detection, for instance, if you go into that business and you have 10 seconds to detect a fraud versus 10 milliseconds to detect a fraud, you can maybe catch that transaction at the till as opposed to phoning someone 3 days after they've used their credit card saying, were you in Florida on such and such a date at Target, for instance, right? So the concept of being able to shrink that shrinking decision cycle, coupled with the fact that there's not enough of these data scientists and that there's more data, you have 3 trends. More data, less time, and not enough people to do the analysis, right? So we have to simplify the predictive piece for a business analyst or a business user. We're disrupting this market of a statistician being the only gatekeeper on terms of building a model to giving that power to a business user audience and let that analyst persona rise and build their models correctly, nice models, that will help them gain that advantage in the market of profitability or cost reduction or fraud detection or whatever the case may be. So in terms of predictive analytics and understanding what is that concept and how does it work, there's actually stages of predictive analytics, right? There's things like data mining, which is I'm going to data sources that I've had in the past, collected lots of information on, and I'm looking for the nuggets, things that are interesting, outliers, anomalies. So you got this whole kind of concept of outlier detection, anomaly detection in that data set. And that's where things like the beer and diapers example, the famous beer and diaper example comes up, where, why are these things selling together? We don't, something's wrong with the data. Let's test the data again. Okay, but the data's right. So there is a real trend here where beer and diapers are correlated. So what does that mean? Right? Now you start to rearrange your store layout based on the fact that there seems to be some kind of trend between the beer and the diapers. Right? That's one example. The other example is, okay, that's data mining, but now I want to do something which is more prescriptive and going to predictive. Right? I've looked at data mining. It found me a trend. I'm looking for a correlation. That's my prediction. I see a trend that I can predict the trend will continue or not. And then I will go to prescriptive, which is, okay, now that I saw something and I understood why it's happening, I want to know what to do about it. So I need a prescriptive tool to say the best course of action out of all these possible scenarios. So now we're like the simulations and Monte Carlo analysis, that kind of stuff. Out of all these possible outcomes, here are the most probable ones, and here's the best course of action you should take to prevent fraud or to increase sales or et cetera, et cetera. So there's kind of that phase of exploration, trend analytics, correlation or predictive analytics, and then moving to prescriptive and optimization simulations, that kind of thing. There's a concept that if you use the wrong algorithm, you're in trouble. So which algorithm when is one of the most common questions we get. You could use a classification and you're actually trying to do a decision tree and you don't know which decision tree algorithm is it, a C4.5, is it classification regression? I mean, it gets pretty hairy and scary at that stage. So we acquired a company called KXEN back in October of 2013. And their whole business premise was, we are going to not let you know anything about the algorithm. You don't have to worry about the algorithm. Tell us what you're looking to do. We'll take a look at the data and we'll optimize the data for the target that you're looking at and make sure that we get you the right answer. And they'll take into account all the stuff the statisticians care about. Automatic binning, variable reduction, multicollinearity, all that kind of stuff is being taken care of behind the scenes. So a business user doesn't have to worry about or go back to school for a degree in how to minimize all these errors which are already accounted for by the software. So that acquisition changed the perspective of SAP. We were talking about disrupting the market earlier as the domain of the data scientists because there's just not enough of them, to making it more democratic and bring it to business users, right? To do that, we had to find a technology which allowed a business user to push a button and get a reasonable answer. And by reasonable, I mean worthy, comparable to any of the products in the marketplace, but not at the expense of having to go and retrain and get re-educated in the market space. The which algorithm when disappears when I can set an objective, a business-based objective, using business input in my brain, and saying, yeah, the data makes sense, build me the model, and I can test it against what I feel is right, what my business clients are telling me is right, not just what a mathematical model tells me is right. I'll extend that one further. For example, a data scientist gets a question from his boss saying, I need sales forecasts for the next 4 quarters. Goes off, he builds something like a triple exponential smoothing model that accounts for seasonality. He builds a perfect mathematical model. He does the same kind of analysis with a business user, a sales manager, and even without KXN, even without SAP. He goes, okay, Dave, go take a look at this business model for me. What's your forecast for the next 4 quarters? And Dave might say something like, well, Jennifer's getting married in July, so let me drop July down 5%. Jeff got sick, let's drop that 2 quarters. I'm going to hire 2 guys in November, let's pump that up a little bit. And what he comes up with, what he knows about the business, is actually more relevant than the perfect mathematical model that came out of a data scientist, because he has the business knowledge. So we want to get access to the business knowledge and apply our skills there and get the 80-20 effect of being able to build not the perfect model, but a good enough model that's going to make an impact on the business.